How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to make a quick video where I give my thoughts on the NYXL versus the Atlanta Reign matchup from last night, as well as the Shanghai Dragons clinching their first ever playoff berth. Let us begin with the NYXL losing to the Atlanta Reign for a second time in a row, because I have a bone to pick with New York after all. In case any of you were not aware for some reason, yesterday's game between these two teams was a rematch of their game that happened during Week 3. During this Week 3 game, the Reign kind of just went in and stunned the NYXL by winning the first 3 maps of the series, allowing them to take the W. I think I can speak for most people when I say that this was a shocking turn of events. Seeing the NYXL struggle to deal with an Atlanta team who had been playing horribly up until that point was stunning to say the least. The Reign had figured them out. It even got to the point where the NYXL were getting spawn camped on Kings Row. Luckily for the NYXL, they would have a chance during Week 5 to get some revenge on the Reign when they played each other again. This would be their final game of the stage, so they had more than a week to prepare and to fix the mistakes they made last time. Most people, which includes myself, were interested to see if the Reign would give the NYXL trouble again. I personally thought that New York would roll them this time around, since they very rarely lose 2 games in a row. After all, they're usually pretty good with learning from their past mistakes, and with the Reign losing to the Charge right after beating the NYXL, it appeared that maybe Atlanta just got lucky. But as we all know, that did not end up being the case at all. While this match was definitely a whole lot closer than the first one, the Reign would end up coming out on top yet again after a hard-fought 5-map series. Words cannot even begin to express how disappointed I am in the NYXL. You got stunned by a team you probably should have beaten during Week 3, and you also had the opportunity to show the world this was just a fluke during Week 5. You had over a week to regroup and learn from what you did wrong. You're supposed to be one of the best teams in the league that nobody should take lightly. You're only giving the haters and the memers more firepower by losing to the same average team for a second time in a row. And speaking of losing to teams in consecutive matchups, this seems to be a trend for the NYXL. In Season 1, they lost to the London Spitfire in the Stage 1 finals, then lost to them immediately again during Stage 2. I know that Mana was playing support and all during this game, but that still doesn't change the fact that you got reverse swept the first time. Then in Stage 4, they lost to the Valiant in the regular season and the stage finals. Then of course they lost 2 matches in a row to the Fusion in the overall playoffs to help solidify their title as league chokers. And now we can add the Atlanta Reign to the growing list of teams that New York has lost to twice in a row. I'm not even an NYXL fan and I'm still really frustrated. I know these guys can play so much better than this. I don't say this often about this team, but the NYXL actually appeared to be scared during this game at certain points. They also showed very few adjustments to the masterful game plan laid out by the Atlanta Reign. I don't know what's wrong with this New York team right now. They could actually be in a boatload of trouble coming into the playoffs since they look so vulnerable right now. There were some good things about this game though. For one, it was really close and actually very exciting. Even though I'm very disappointed with New York, I'm actually very satisfied with how entertaining this match was. I was discussing some of the key reasons why Atlanta was doing so well with my Discord, which you can actually join through the link in the description, shameless plug by the way, and the common consensus is that Atlanta had the perfect formula for beating the NYXL. Big shout out to my man Wool by the way. He was a big help when it came down to this analysis. I recommend checking out his channel if you haven't already, because he makes some high quality Overwatch League content. He goes into a lot more detail than I ever could, and he works very hard. But anyway, the first noticeable thing that Atlanta did was keep constant pressure on Mano the entire game. The Reign were not letting this man have his way in the slightest, and Mano often found himself either dead or very low on HP as a result. This constant pressure made the job of the NYXL's backline a nightmare. This often led to situations where Jonek, Animo, and Libero were all pressured into using ults earlier than they would have liked. Jonek is a player who very rarely makes mistakes, but he made a good amount of them yesterday. Shout out to the Reign for forcing Jonek into uncomfortable situations where he either made a positioning error or ended up using trance at a bad time. Babybay often capitalized on this by using Grav immediately after Jonek's either trans or ended up dying before he could use it. And speaking of Babybay, the man had one hell of a game. His Zarya looked really strong. There were plenty of moments in this game where he straight up won the Zarya battle over Nene. But it wasn't just Babybay who played well. Everybody did their job. Pokebo and Dogman in particular were 2 of the other standouts for me personally. Pokebo had himself an incredible round on Lijiang Tower in particular. His Winston looked unbelievably strong and the NYXL had no answer for it. Pokebo's usages of Primal Rage always seemed to find value as he found at least 1 kill every time he used it pretty much. And Dogman went toe to toe with Jonek yet again by more than holding his own in the Zenyatta battle. Dogman played so well in this game. Player of the match was well deserved even if he didn't seem to think so. The Reign definitely deserve as much credit as humanly possible for figuring out the NYXL. I'm super proud of these guys. Now let us transition into the second part of the video, which is of course the Shanghai Dragons making the playoffs for the very first time. Can we get some congratulations Dragons down in the comment section please? They finally were able to break through. They had to travel along a very bumpy road to get here, but their time has finally come. The Dragons have pulled off one of the greatest storylines in league history. From 0-40 in Season 1 to playoff contenders in Season 2. What an incredible story. Stage 2 didn't exactly start off great for the Dragons either though, so it's all the more impressive that they made it. Things actually started kind of rough when they lost their first 2 games during week 1 to the NYXL and the LA Gladiators, but then they stepped up big time by winning their next 4 games. The players have been absolutely amazing, but I have to applaud the Dragons management in particular. They rebuilt this team by going out there and acquiring some very talented pieces. Getting players from Kangdu Panthera plus trading for Gamsu has really helped establish your team as one who is no longer an easy win on the schedule. I feel so happy for Gaguri and Dia in particular because they had to suffer through that entire 0-40 season. I'm sure that finally winning games and not being the laughingstock of the league has to feel good. Oh, and before I forget, every single Dragons fan in existence should be thanking the LA Valiant. If it weren't for them coming through and beating the Chengdu Hunters, then they might have ended up just barely missing out. If the Hunters won, then all the pressure in the world would be on the Dragons to not get completely stomped by the San Francisco Shock in order to keep a better map differential than the Hunters. So yeah, if you like the Dragons, then thank the boys in the green and gold. I personally am super stoked to see the Dragons in the playoffs, but the only problem is that they're guaranteed to take on the Shock, Spitfire, or Titans depending on the outcome of their game today goes, as well as what happens in the Spark versus Dynasty game. If I was a fan of the Dragons, then I would be praying you face the London Spitfire. You guys have already beaten them once before, and London is one of the more vulnerable teams in the playoffs. It definitely still won't be easy though. The Spitfire are a whole different beast in the playoffs. Prophet in particular always seems to play out of his mind. Just ask the Gladiators, Valiant, or Fusion from last year. But even if the Dragons end up getting completely destroyed in the playoffs, we should all celebrate the fact that they made it. This is going to be an historic moment for the Overwatch League. From 0 wins and an absolute meme to a playoff team. Let's all be proud of the Dragons for pulling off such an incredible feat. With that being said, that's going to do it for today's video, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed today's content, then be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.